Who's here?
Agent.
Here.
Clegg.
Here.
Halliburton.
Here.
Sanchez.
Here.
Thompson.
Here.
Woodings.
Here.
All present.
Great, thanks, everybody.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, do you have something before we go to?
Yes, I do. Thank you. I move that we amend the agenda to add resolution 20220. This resolution was previously posted on an amended agenda earlier today for the public.
Second. We have a motion, a second. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Sanchez.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Woodings.
Yes.
Agent.
Yes.
Clegg.
Yes.
Halliburton.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Thanks, Char. And we'll move on then to item number 2, request for approval of the minutes of the work session and evening meeting of May 12th, 2020.
Madam Mayor, I ask approval of the minutes of May 12th, both the 4 o'clock and the 6 o'clock meeting.
Second. We have a motion, a second. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Sanchez.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Woodings.
Yes.
Agent.
Yes.
Clegg.
Yes.
Halliburton.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Excellent, thanks. And next up, item number 3, special business.
Madam Mayor, council members, we have a COVID update for you tonight. Hello. Happy Tuesday, everyone. I believe it's Tuesday, although the days do tend to run together. I'm going to give a brief update on the program. Mallory's going to run through the numbers just like we've been doing. And then Kyle is going to be available if we have any questions and answers from you on opening updates. From the program that we have working on right now across the city, as you know, stage 2 reopening started on Saturday. We have multiple services reopening across the city. They're predominantly focused in library and parks. So our curbside pickup, our book drop-offs, both opened at the main library, as well as technology appointments for people to come in and use the PCs. I talked to Christine Miller today. There's been a really favorable response for those. So far, so good. In parks, we have multiple different services reopening as well, with tennis and pickleball across the city, the Bike Skills Park, the dog parks, and Quill Hollow. They are also preparing for stage 3 for the play camps hiring. So we're both hiring externally for our temporary summer work staff, as well as redeploying some of our staff from other departments. We still have the same challenges we've been having around social distancing out in our parks and our open spaces, although the rain does help keep that down a little bit. We anticipate that heats right back up again along with the weather. And within the program, we have a couple of updates of note for you. The vulnerable populations work stream has had some really successful conversations with the Boise School District this week, and they are going to partner and help with Picnic in the Park. So we have a solution that is in the process of being developed right now with them for the summer, which is good news indeed. And then the federal and state reimbursement coordination, while we still don't have access to submit to the state yet for the coronavirus relief fund, we do know our allocation at 7.8 million, which is more information than we had last week. So those are the updates that have come out of the program and the departments this week. Are there any questions for me before I hand it over for Mallory to walk us through the numbers and the graphs? Okay, Mallory, I believe you're up.
Thanks, Wendy. Good evening, Madam Mayor, council members. So our current situation as far as case counts across the country and the state this week. Within the US, we have topped 1.5 million cases and are closing in on 100,000 deaths within the country. As of today at 5 o'clock, via the state's reporting website, we have 2,476 cases within the state. 21 of those are new today, and 77 deaths reported. Within Ada County, 783 cases, 3 of those being new today, and 23 deaths. We've had an average of about 3 cases a day for the past 4 days or so within the county. And then continues on with a total of just over 38,000 tests that have been conducted across the state thus far. So next. The case trends, and based on kind of our discussion last week, I added this week kind of the difference in the confirmed versus the total cases. So you can see that those probable cases are really pretty minimal. The top line, the green one, and the kind of the dark red lines are the totals, which is the same line that I've been showing you in previous weeks. But I did add in that what's been reported as confirmed, which is those lower lines, just to kind of show that there is that little bit of a difference in probable cases, but it's rather insignificant compared to the total. And so then looking at some of the trends over the duration of this incident, and especially the past weeks, this is from yesterday's update of the Central District Health dashboard that they have, showing a little bit of an uptick in cases over this past week compared to the week prior, but not significant that I have heard them reference it as a spike. They're still reviewing, the number of cases, and they are still sounding like they're confident is within the thresholds that they are comfortable with as far as the cases. So the last one, Wendy. And then that same kind of chart, I fixed the weeks this week, or at least the dates on the week, that we can show that same data for the state and for the county. So it's looking a little similar, across the state within the 4-county health district and within just our county here in Ada County, where we've seen a little bit of an increase in cases, but nothing too significant yet, thankfully. And so hopefully that trend continues as we continue to work through reopening.
Madam Mayor.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Mallory. Like a lot of folks have noticed this weekend that we had a lot of folks just really take to the streets and everywhere else. This may be coming up later in your presentation, but I just wanted to ask if we are looking to be prepared for these numbers to go up in the coming weeks, quite honestly, based on all the activity that we saw this past weekend as folks were notified that we were opening up a bit.
Councilmember Sanchez, I think that, there is some expectation that some cases will continue to grow. And this, of course, is me just kind of speaking to what I've heard from being on calls with the health district. I'm obviously still not a medical professional, even these couple of months later, and definitely not an epidemiologist. But given that we've been in this for a little bit, I do know the health district is feeling a bit more prepared as far as their contact tracing. I know they hired, I think their last situation report, they had said they had hired 3 additional people with the capability to hire more to increase that capability. And I know that they are in conversations with the healthcare systems to make sure that they are comfortable with, the amount of cases that we're seeing. And so far, we haven't had any reports from the healthcare systems with any significant increase in trends that are concerning to them. So does that answer your question a little bit?
Actually, I'm just going to do a quick follow-up, if I may, about the contact tracers. So assuming that if there is a spike or a surge in the coming weeks based on this past weekend's activity, would contact tracers then be focused on finding out where those originated and then focus on those individuals? Is that how that works?
Yes, I believe so. Again, not being an epidemiologist and just kind of speaking from the report that Central District Health put out, that they currently do have the capacity to do that tracing to see, to see if they can determine where it came from and also where it was going from then on from that identified case, if that makes sense, getting in touch with those people that they have been in contact with. They feel like they currently have the capacity to do that tracing for each of the cases at the moment, based on what I've read in their situation reports.
So Mallory, that would involve, if that were to be the case, rather than having everybody stay home like we did initially, it would give us the opportunity to be a bit more surgical in the way that we have folks quarantine.
I don't, I really would hate to speak much to that, not having that not be my background, but I'm not sure in the past couple of weeks that they are really changing their approach necessarily to that. The guidance is still that if you're sick, stay home, and to follow the recommendation of health professionals, given that if you are a positive case. So I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't know that much of that has changed in the past couple of weeks.
Okay, the reason I'm asking these questions is I happen to be invited to participate on a Zoom meeting with other Latinx elected officials, and one of them, a very kind man who I met a couple of years ago, his name is Councilmember Johnny Farias from Miami, Florida. He's been under quarantine for 49 days. He contracted COVID in the early days. He was out helping with a food drive, I believe. Masked up, gloved, 6 feet, still managed to contract COVID, brought it home to his wife and child. They have since then tested negative. They did have it, but they've since then tested negative. He says he's had 4 positive tests for COVID, even though he's asymptomatic now. So that's why I bring this up in terms of, if we see numbers getting bigger in the coming weeks, if that's how those contact tracers might work. But thank you, Mallory. I appreciate the information.
Madam Mayor, could I ask a quick question of Mallory as well?
Of course, go ahead.
Thank you. Mallory, I think if we look at the evidence that we're seeing around the country, the real dangers, at least right now, seem to be clusters that happen at closed facilities, workplaces, and nursing homes. I know that Crush the Curve has gotten very active in doing some testing at workplaces, especially given what happened in the workplace in Weiser, and trying to figure out how to make sure that we end up, being able to identify and stop those clusters early on. I'm still concerned about the nursing homes and assisted living facilities in this region. I know the state and Central District Health are working on a strategy. Can you tell us more about that? It seems to me, as much as we're concerned about seeing people outside and not socially distancing, the big number of cases that we've seen from other parts across the country have come from more of that close contact kind of group. So just wondered what you could tell us about that.
Unfortunately, sorry, I got some feedback there. Unfortunately, I don't know that I actually have much of an update on that strategy. I can definitely do a little more specific research into it before next week, so we can speak better to that, because I haven't been in the loop too much on any of the specifics of that planning effort.
Okay, I think going forward, this is going to last a while, that making sure that we are at least trying to keep track of those kinds of dangers would be a really helpful strategy.
Sure, and I do know that, from the beginning, as part of our vulnerable populations group, we have had a group that has been making contact and reaching out to those facilities within the city to see kind of what their status and needs are, to be able to elevate concerns if they see them. And so I know that outreach is continuing, at least as far as I know. That would be kind of under that vulnerable populations umbrella. So that is one avenue that we do have kind of within the city that we will continue.
Thank you. One last follow-up, if I could. I will share one of the things I've heard is that many of the workers at those facilities don't have health care. And so getting testing from someone who can bring it to them and not requiring them to go and have to pay for it, I think is going to be really important in order for there to be ubiquitous testing among them. So I just wanted to share that I've had some contacts in the last few days from some of my constituents who've been concerned about that with their own parents, for instance. Thanks.
Madam Mayor.
Go ahead.
Mallory, I think you're doing a tremendous job, especially for not being an epidemiologist and keeping track of all of this stuff where, you know, none of us are experts. I know that I've talked with Madam Mayor in the past about potentially having a presentation from Central District Health about their capacity building, about how they've developed their recommendations and some of those things as they're acting as our lead agency for a health crisis. And I'm wondering if there's been any update on any progress toward that.
Yeah, I actually spoke with Central District Health about the opportunity of bringing them in, and they had said they'd huddle and follow back up. I could do that again. You and Elaine are on those on those biweekly calls now that other mayors are on. And so you've heard those updates, but Russ had said when we got to a logical point where one of them could come, he'd be happy to do it.
Yeah, I think especially given some of Councilmember Sanchez's questions and some of Council President Clegg's questions, I think that those would probably be better answered by our health district. And the timing seems good to me.
Yep.
And Madam Mayor and Council Pro Tem Woodings, I would say too that if, you know, given even if they aren't available for presentation, maybe we could make an extra effort to see if they have some extra data or presentation that we could present on their behalf that's a little more official and a little less me reiterating what I've heard. So I think that could be a potential solution if they're not available to come themselves.
Great.
So, Madam Mayor, council members, we also have Kyle Patterson with us here tonight. If any of you had any questions on the reopening plan that we've rolled out and that we're in the process of rolling out. So Kyle is here with us if anyone has questions for him.
Madam Mayor?
I didn't see who that was.
That was me.
Go ahead.
I have two questions, and it could be for, the first one could be to anyone on council or any of you helping lead this charge. I get several concerns from folks that are living in apartment/condos type situations and may be taking care of an elder parent or grandparent. They obviously take very strong precautions. They wear masks and that sort of thing. But those that live within the apartment and those that manage don't care to enforce or request or others to do the same. It seems like a rock and a hard place. Can't really go in and enforce that type of activity. It seems all we can do is perhaps educate and encourage folks in these privately owned places to do that for their community. Is that correct, or is there something more we can do? Thanks. That's very
Yeah, council member. I am unaware of our ability to enforce within private facilities, but I would certainly defer to Kyle if you're aware of the governor's orders that would give us any authority in that space.
Councilmember Thompson, this is Kyle Patterson. I'm not aware of anything else either, although the state has published protocols for kind of congregate care and kind of group living facilities that could be useful for owners of those types of facilities.
Okay, thank you. For those that have reached out, I can get those to them so that they can hopefully provide them to the managing authorities at these places. Did you have something else, Mallory, or I have one more question?
Oh, I was just to add on to Kyle's that Central District Health as well on their website has guidance for apartments and those other congregate living facilities as well to try to maintain it as safely as possible. So that's listed on their website under their resources.
Okay, I'll get that to them. And one more question, Madam Mayor. It was great to see all those masks that you were able to obtain from those sources. Really great. I've had a couple people reach out and say, hey, I'd like some too. But I don't know if the answer is, me personally delivering them, or is there maybe at some point a time slot hour, you know, it's a period where City Hall or something's opened up and said to the community and say, hey, we got these masks, come and grab a stack if you want them or whatever.
We're working with organizational partners right now to distribute those. And so if you as council members would like to come in and get some and distribute to organizations or people you work with, you're welcome to. But other than that, we're not, right now, we don't envision having anybody come because of the impact that could have on our staff in trying to distribute them. And so we've handed out over half of them through different community groups. And if there are any other nonprofits out there that haven't connected with our team here in the mayor's office, they should reach out to come get some.
Thanks.
Madam Mayor?
Yeah.
I just wanted to thank you so much for making the effort to meet me this weekend to give me a box of those masks. We'll be distributing those to some of the Mexican little shops around Boise. Made sure to give some to Noel of Adelfa's Cuban Comida, who serves twice a week in the North End. So he was very happy to distribute those for us. Thank you.
Well, and the Boise Farmers Market took them to be able to mask all of their volunteers and helpers that don't have their masks. And these are them, since I wear, this is all I wear now because it's so comfortable. It's not super cool looking, but it's the most comfortable mask there is that I found. And they're made in LA, and US Conference of Mayors helped distribute them. So we have more and really want to get them out to the public.
Madam Mayor?
Yeah.
I would just echo a thanks as well to the mayor's office and Lana for reaching out. We got 500 of them at the Boise Bicycle Project. And as we've been going and doing free bike repair at a lot of our apartment complexes, we've been handing them out like crazy. And it's been a great opportunity, I think, for us to see how much misinformation our apartment complexes still have, and how, as we're kind of out there doing our essential services, fixing up these kids' bikes, how big of an educational opportunity there is. And having the ability to hand those masks out has been transformative. So I would just echo one more thank you from all the nonprofits who received those masks. It really made a big difference for the people that we're working with.
Great, that's good to hear.
Madam Mayor, I believe that concludes our update for tonight on the.
Madam Mayor, sorry, I was a little slow. I was on mute. I just wanted to, if I could, thank Kyle for getting back to me on my question last week. I know there isn't a lot of data on, what's the overall death rate in the country versus here, but I know that Kyle worked really hard to get what data there was, and I just wanted to tell him I really appreciate that. And also add my thanks for getting those extra masks so folks around town could have access to them.
Well, thank you all very much for joining us this evening. All right. Let's see. Next up, we have the consent agenda. All items with an asterisk are considered to be routine by the council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion on these items unless a council member or citizen so requests, in which case the item will be removed from general order of business and considered in its normal sequence.
Madam Mayor,
yes.
I would ask that we remove the item that we amended the agenda to add tonight so that we can all have a discussion about it. That's resolution 202-20. And also just note that resolution 201-20 is a resolution ratifying the Public Health Emergency Order 2006 for reopening the City of Boise Stage 2, enacted on May 14th. And thank you and look forward. I know many community members are thankful that the city was able to move to Stage 2. And as we heard tonight, we're all hopeful we can stay there if everybody follows these orders. So thanks. So with that, I would move approval of the consent agenda.
Madam Mayor, I'm happy to second. If we can also, I would like to just have a little bit of discussion around RES 201-20 as well before we approve it, if that's okay.
Sure.
I just have some comments. So if we can pull those two resolutions, then I second.
I will amend my motion to pull both of those.
Thank you. Then I second.
Great, we have a motion and a second. Clerk, will you call the roll?
Sanchez,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Woodings,
Yes.
Bajent,
Yes.
Clegg,
Yes.
Halliburton.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Great, thank you. So now we will take up, should we do 201-20 first? Let's do that one. We'll go in order because the other one was 202-20, right?
Right.
Okay, great.
Madam Mayor, I would move approval of RES 201-20, and I'll have some comments after I get a second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion?
So I just wanted to express my appreciation for this resolution and the kind of gating criteria that was put in there that was different than our last emergency order to keep us at least in line with considering moving on to subsequent phases with the governor's timing. I think that just provides a lot of clarity for our businesses and other people who are looking to us to make sure that their livelihoods can be restored, and it gives them a little bit more certainty that we're really looking at what the state is doing and really not looking to do maybe anything different unless the criteria really show that we should. So I just wanted to say thank you for that in this resolution. It really made a difference for me.
Great, we've got a motion and a second on the floor. Char, will you call the roll?
Sanchez,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Woodings,
Yes.
Bajent,
Yes.
Clegg,
Yes.
Halliburton.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Great, thank you. So this next one, 202-20, I'll introduce, and then I imagine after we have a motion on the table, there'll be some other comments. We walked this on tonight because there's no council meeting next week, and we realized that we wanted to make it clear to the public that we are looking for partnership with businesses in creating more spaces for them to safely cater to their customers. And I'm super excited that we will have, I believe by week's end, specific announcements and details related to 8th Street and the partnership and agreement that ACHD has committed to make some changes on 8th Street possible. And then we're also in conversation right now with ACHD on Broad Street, and then would welcome other requests from the community to look at how, in partnership with ACHD, we can support small businesses that are attempting to reopen and do well in the coming months. And so this resolution really just, we want to use it to encourage our staff to keep at it. I really appreciate the work they've done on this. And I really want to thank ACHD and the state division in charge of alcohol for working with us, and businesses that have already reached out to my office, and the staff that's working on the city's behalf to make some changes possible to support small businesses moving forward. And so thanks for your work on this, Elaine, today in terms of writing the resolution to memorialize the intent that we have to support wherever we can in partnership with other agencies in this region, small businesses in our city.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. With that, I will make a motion to approve 202-20, and if I get a second, I do have some comments.
Second.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank the mayor for her hard work in working with the businesses and supporting her staff to work with the businesses, also brainstorming the idea to do this resolution tonight. I think it's really important that we as a city let all of our businesses know how important it is for them to reopen, that we need them for recovery, that we need them to recover, for the city to recover. And this is one step we can take by allowing more room, by utilizing some of the public right-of-way in some of these places to allow them to have more customers and still be able to follow the guidance on social distancing. It's really hard to reopen a business and only be able to serve a third or half of the customers that you typically do and still be profitable. And if they're not profitable, they're not going to be successful in helping us with recovery. So for me, this is a really important memorialization of our intent to do what we can to help them. And thank you, staff, for all your hard work and help, working on this. And I look forward to actually seeing it implemented soon.
Madam Mayor.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I have a little bit of a fun genesis story for this this initiative, and I want to thank the mayor for taking some of my harebrained ideas and either like laughing at them or agreeing that staff could start working on them and putting her staff on it. And this is one of the latter ones, because it wasn't crazy out of the realm. So there's a restaurant in Ireland called Idaho, and they have been making the same request of their city council to close streets in Bath, Ireland, so that restaurants are able to expand their patios. And so this was kind of a ongoing conversation on Twitter about opening streets so that restaurants are able to expand their patios for safer dining. And so the suggestion was made by somebody else, well, why doesn't Boise do this? And the answer is, well, Boise doesn't control all of our streets. And so we don't necessarily have the authority to do this everywhere, but where we can do it is 8th Street. And we've been looking ever since CCDC transferred ownership of 8th Street over to the city of Boise. We've been looking at the possibility of closing 8th Street between Bannock and Main for different uses, without parking, without car traffic, for just pedestrians. And so I think that this is one of those really great timing opportunities to try it out when it's really, necessitated by the need for our local restaurants to survive and possibly thrive through this. And so I just think it's a really cool opportunity. And I'm super thankful that Sean Keithley from Economic Development has really jumped on it. The 8th Street businesses have been super enthusiastic and really playing a leading role in this. And the Downtown Boise Association has been very supportive too. So it's, I know that a ton of people have been working on it really hard for several weeks now. And it's exciting to see this resolution come forward. It doesn't occur to me to even do stuff like this sometimes because I get so spun up and excited about just like helping do the thing. And so it's really great to see it memorialized in this way. And I'm thankful to Council President Clegg and Madam Mayor and legal for their work on this resolution today.
Madam Mayor.
Who was that? Councilman Halliburton?
Yeah, it was.
Okay.
I'll try to keep it pretty short though. I think that both Council President Clegg and Council Pro Tem Woodings, they thanked all the right people, and I just want to thank both of them for helping push this idea forward. One of the pleasures that Council President Clegg and I have is that we get to work in the transportation sector with all the transportation weirdos, and I say that as a term of endearment. And I know that this is something that they've been fighting hard for as well. Citizens in our community, people who are working at other organizations and nonprofits, and just regular folks who are wanting to make streets safer for people walking, biking, and for everybody. And so I think this is a big victory for everyone all the way around. I love giving people tools in a toolbox and seeing how they use them. And I'm a firm believer that our businesses are smart. And if we give them some tools to succeed, they'll really find some ways to surprise us in some really positive ways. So I would just like to echo that thanks to all the folks who were involved from the city all the way down to the citizens.
Madam Mayor, I forgot one thing. May I add something?
Of course.
One of the considerations with this project is preserving ADA access into our businesses along 8th Street. And so in the coming weeks, I may be proposing to council that we use a bit of our strategic initiative fund to fund some temporary ramps to allow accessible entrances onto the sidewalk. And so that's something that I've been chatting with some of the business and building owners along that block with, and there may be a funding request coming up. I just wanted to give everyone a a heads up on that.
Madam Mayor?
Yeah.
The Council Pro Tem's comment was exactly the one that I was going to make, which is, first of all, yes, this is fantastic, and it is fantastic timing. What a great opportunity to use the time when our streets are less full to experiment with ways in the short term that we might be able to use them better in the much longer term. I think it's great. I also very much want to make sure that we don't lose sight of the members of our community with disabilities who need those access ways and need those right of ways to enjoy our city as they are entitled to it, as they deserve to in the most livable city in the world. So I'm glad that comment was made and that we're going to be incorporating that. And I hope as we're announcing our intent to support and help our restaurants as much as we can, that we're also very clear that we're supporting everyone in Boise who uses our streets as well.
And I just want to be clear on that. We are having those conversations with the people on this that are working, with the businesses along the streets and the ADA community. It's been a part of our factoring of how the design works from the beginning.
Good. It's not called out in the resolution, and I didn't have time to make that edit when I saw it today. So I thought I'd take an opportunity to make sure that everybody knows that that's on our radar too.
Great. All right. Well, before we have a vote, I just encourage people around this community to think about how we as a city can help you, whether it be working through some of the permitting issues, through our clerk's office, helping facilitate conversations with the agency that regulates alcohol, or looking at different streets throughout the city. This isn't just about 8th Street. We're talking already with the Highway District and business owners about several others. And I really appreciate the partnership that the Highway District has signaled their interest in helping make this happen. So please, residents that are watching, or as you hear about this, if you have questions, need some help, would like to brainstorm how you can better serve your clients to be most successful in the coming months, please reach out to the city.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Just like everyone else, I just want to thank council leadership and yourself for being visionary with this move. Right now, because of COVID, we're having to move in a very fluid fashion. But I think with this particular move, it's going to provide us with an opportunity to have long-lasting change that is going to be putting us in the direction we've all been wanting to head, and that's more people being active, using our walkways, and being more in touch with the city and what it has to offer. And it's easier to do that when you're walking as opposed to driving. So hopefully these changes will increase our economy and make it more accessible for more Boiseans to enjoy our businesses. So thank you.
Thanks. All right, clerk, will you call the roll?
Sanchez,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Woodings,
Yes.
Bajent,
Yes.
Clegg,
Yes.
Halliburton.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
All right, we have no ordinances tonight or unfinished business, which is always good. We have new business. So item 7A1, SUB 20-7. We'll start with staff. Let's see, I just want to check. So it looks like the applicant for Fiona's Little subdivision is on the meeting, and there are others as well. So we will, after staff presents, I'll double check and we'll open it up. Amanda will facilitate it, but we'll open it up to first the applicant if you would like to say something, and then to anybody that might be here to talk about this item, or any ahead of us. I mean, any after this one.
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council. Can everyone hear me all right? See the screen? This is a request for a preliminary and final plat for a residential subdivision. The project includes 4 buildable lots on just over an acre located at 7200 North Gary Lane in an R1C zone. For those unfamiliar with the area, it's located just northeast of River Glen Junior High. Again, the project includes 4 buildable lots. One will be occupied by an existing home that will be retained, and the others will support new detached single-family homes. All 4, as you can see, will be accessed from a common driveway proposed along the southern property line. That common drive will be extended to a landlocked parcel to the east, and a condition of approval requires that a cross-access agreement be provided. You will also notice a larger property to the east beyond that. Connectivity to that area is actually provided from Devonwood Drive just north of the project site. That street would allow that area to redevelop with a connection to Gary Lane and potentially to Hill Road in the future. A curb gutter and 5-foot sidewalk and a bike lane are already in place along Gary Lane. A number of existing mature trees along Gary Lane will also be retained. The applicant is also proposing to save a number of trees that are located very close to proposed lot lines within the development. The project was unopposed at the Planning and Zoning Commission hearing in March. They did unanimously recommend approval of the request. We do remain unaware of opposition and are recommending approval of the preliminary and final plat this evening. Thank you.
Great. Any questions for Cody?
Madam Mayor.
Muted myself. Go ahead.
Hey, Cody. Thank you for communicating with me today. There's a canal just to the south of this property line. It's the Spoils Bank Canal, which is a pretty interesting canal actually, because it's largely ground fed. It's almost like a creek, and part of it, the Boise River, kind of used to run in this area. So it has some pretty interesting history. I also grew up over there and fished for crawdads and stuff in the creek. So I'm pretty well tied to that area. But a couple years ago, I think it was like 2015, I know that ACHD, the city of Boise, and a lot of the area residents helped put together a bike and pedestrian plan that was adopted by ACHD. And they do identify the Spoils Bank Canal as a potential opportunity for a pathway. And I know that it's kind of right there on the border where it's actually on the property to the south. The canal is on their property, but that property line, I'm just curious if that borders up against where an easement or a potential pathway would take place, and if there's anything that we could do to make sure that that was a potential opportunity in the future, or we didn't block that opportunity in the future.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, Councilmember Halliburton, it is challenging in this situation where you can see the canal itself, as well as the bank is entirely on the property to the south and then in those backyards. But if there was redevelopment, say east of this site, it could be. We already have a condition requiring cross access. We could modify that condition to make it clear that it's for automobiles and pedestrians. After you asked earlier, maybe something like this that includes language allowing unrestricted pedestrian access through the site, including a provision for construction or connection to a larger pathway system to the east between the common drive and Spoils Bank Canal. And then we could reference that easement on the subdivision plat. Again, it's going to be quite challenging given the canal is located in those backyards of so many private properties. But then if we do work things out with the canal company in the future, we've protected the ability to get back out perhaps through this property. And if it doesn't work out, then no loss to the applicant.
Madam Mayor. Yeah, thank you, Cody. And just to follow up with that, thank you for putting that language together. And the reason I guess why I like that and why I kind of pushed to see if it was possible is just understanding that if there was a potential pathway, that while it might be partially on that property to the south on their property, that it also might potentially border up depending on how far the setback was away from the canal. And that might just potentially leave opportunities for the future. Because it seems like if there ever was a pathway, and in the neighborhood plan that was developed, that it did exist on the north end or the north side of the canal and not the south side, where it appears that there's some roadway that exists anyway. So yeah, I appreciate you exploring some of that additional language just to see if that's a way of keeping that opportunity open in the future.
Madam Mayor, could I follow up on this? Cody, I appreciate the language you put together. I wonder if we could modify it slightly to acknowledge that if a canal pathway does get established on the north bank of the Spoils Bank Canal, that that there would also be cross access to the south to access it. So yes, I think it's likely if it's going to happen, it's going to happen to the east. But if it were ever to happen to the south, it would sure be a shame not to have that cross access to it directly from this particular development. Does that make sense?
Madam Mayor, Councilmember Clegg, certainly, I think we could modify that language easily to address the southern property line as well.
Thank you.
All right. Well, with that, if the applicant would like to address us, you're welcome to. I'm going to ask that you state your name and address for the record. And Amanda should be letting you in.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, it's Brad Parsons, 7200 Gary Lane. As for the pedestrian path along the canal, I would be in full support of that. I think probably some of the people on the other side of it would be willing to allow it as well, because they basically just have there's about 20 feet where a path would be great, and these people sort of have to come across the canal to mow their grass and stuff. So I'd be in support of that, and I think I'm in support of everything else Cody said. So if there's any questions, otherwise that's about it from me.
Great, thank you, Mr. Parsons.
Madam Mayor.
Yes, okay, I got to go back up to my pictures. Was that Councilman Halliburton?
Yeah, this question's maybe for Brad. Is there a story about Fiona's little subdivision, about the name?
Just my daughter and not being very creative.
Well, I like it. It's great. So I thought I would ask.
Great, thank you. So we had some people that are here related to this one. Subdivisions aren't typically public hearings. I will go ahead and I'm trying to close.
Madam Mayor, if I may, I thought I saw on the participant list that Richard Llewellyn from the Neighborhood Association was in attendance. I don't know if he's still here or not.
Yeah, he's here, and it looks like some others are as well. I'm gonna give people the opportunity to speak, but because we typically don't open these up as hearings, I'm gonna ask everyone to be brief, and we'll use this as a chance to hear from the public through this platform. So it looks like Richard has his hand up. Richard, go ahead. Richard, we can't hear you.
Mayor, I'm having a technical detail.
All right.
Or a technical issue. Richard, it says you're using an older version of Zoom. So,
ooh, the old version of Zoom.
Oh.
So I'm going to promote you, but it will kick you out. So bear with me. It'll let you back in again.
Are you promoting him to a participant?
Yes.
All right, there he is. Great. So Richard, you're muted right now. You're currently a participant, but when after you've given your testimony, we will be like Amanda will then just close you off.
And you can't hear me?
We can now.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Yeah, I would just like to, first of all, thank you, Jimmy Halliburton, for bringing up the path issue. This is not technically in our neighborhood. I share lots of your interests. And yeah, anything that you can do to further the possibility that this could become a pathway in the future, we'd much appreciate this. As you know, Pierce Park neighborhood just kind of had a long and painful process trying to create a pathway with a grant after the entitlements were given and they failed, basically because there was no longer enough of a incentive to do it. But anyway, it sounds like the developer and everybody's on board. So also, this is not a company. This is a irrigation drainage district. So the rules regarding that is a little bit different. This is a political subdivision. So that's all I'll say. I'll be brief and thank you. And I'm glad I got on. I was frustratingly trying to get everything working in the last moment, but so thank you for letting me speak.
Thanks, Richard. Okay. So would somebody else like to raise, is anybody, I see Missy Corey is for the next item. If anybody is here for this item now, I see Barb Malmstrom, Josh Wilson, and Pat Thiele. Please raise your hand. All right, Barb, Amanda will connect you. And please give your name, even though I just said it. I need you to give your name and your address for the record.
Hello, can you hear me or see me?
We can.
Yes.
Okay. I'm Barb Malmstrom. I live at 9876 Thoroughbred Way in Middleton, Idaho, and I am representing my client, Denise Alter, on a purchase of a lot that she made that we found out had a easement that needed vacated.
All right, I think that might be a different matter than the one that we're addressing right now. Cody, is that another one tonight?
Madam Mayor, that was approved over, I'm gonna get the street wrong. It was on the consent agenda this evening.
All right, would you please, I'm sorry, Barb, would you please, Cody, connect with her offline to answer any questions she might have? Sorry, Barb, that's, we're on a different matter right now.
Okay, no problem.
Thanks, good night. All right, either Josh or Pat, if you were here to talk about Fiona's little subdivision. Okay, I'm going to have the record reflect that nobody else has shown interest in talking about this item before us. So we'll close the public hearing and we have the matter before us.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
I move approval of SUB 20-7 preliminary and final plat at 7200 North Gary Lane with the addition of the language presented by staff on ensuring that an easement is, or that access is available both to the east and the south to access a potential pathway along the Spoils Bank Canal. And thank Councilmember Halliburton for bringing this forward.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Sanchez,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Woodings,
Yes.
Bajent,
Yes.
Clegg,
Yes.
Halliburton.
All right, motion carries.
Thank
Next
you.
up, we have a public hearing, CUP 20-5, Locus LLC at 4222 West Emerald Street. And Cody, you are presenting again.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council. This item is a request for a special exception to operate a restaurant on about a quarter-acre parcel addressed at 4222 West Emerald. The property is located just west of Roosevelt near the cemetery in an R3 or multifamily residential zone. The applicant is proposing a small restaurant serving coffee, beer, wine, cider, and limited food at the existing building's only 637 square feet and was previously actually converted to an office. The applicant is proposing some minor exterior renovations and addition of a deck for outdoor seating. They will also be adding a bike rack and landscaping. Those exterior improvements will require design review approval. The development code doesn't necessarily contemplate restaurants as an appropriate use in residential zones, but the Planning Commission did find special circumstances justifying it in this situation. The property is located on an arterial roadway with easy access to transit and bike lanes. The project also includes the adaptive reuse of a very small building that will be focused on serving residents in the immediate area. The request is also consistent with a variety of uses that are actually already in place along this portion of the Emerald Corridor. To mitigate potential impacts, hours of operation have been limited from 7 to 9 on weekdays, 7 to 10, and then 7 to 10 Friday and Saturday, and 7 to 5 on Sunday. As you saw in the packet, the commission, you did unanimously recommend approval of the application in March. To date, we're only aware of actually support for the project, and that written correspondence was included in your packet. So we are recommending approval of the application this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Cody. Any questions for Cody?
Mayor?
Yes.
Thank you, Cody. I think that this is a really great project. My question is in regards to the agreed upon hours of operation. Say this is super successful and everybody in the neighborhood loves it and they want to amend their hours of operation. What would that process look like for them?
Madam Mayor, Councilmember Woodings, they would need to request a modification to the special exception with neighborhood support. It would require public hearing approval though, but it can always be modified.
Great.
Madam
Sorry.
Mayor?
Yes.
Hi, Cody, just quick comment, I guess, as we go forward. You know, we've had a few of these. This, I'm very excited, is exactly the kind of adaptive reuse we want to see on these kind of corridors. It looks like it's still going to be 3 or 4 years out before we have an adopted new zoning code. And I wonder if it's worth at least memorializing the criteria that we would use to think about these, or whether it's worth just doing them as one-offs, as special exceptions in the meantime, because I could see more of these coming forward, especially on the bench area where we have some of these arterial roadways that are leading into centers, but the off-center portions of them.
Madam Mayor, Councilmember Clegg, certainly I think there's a lesson to be learned here. This is quite an extensive process that these folks went through to get to you this evening. I mean, between our own application process and the way the world changed, unfortunately, between when they applied and now. But I think we could certainly look, you know, the high density residential zone that this is located in for larger projects includes some exceptions built in that would perhaps just require Planning and Zoning Commission approval and not bringing something like this to council. So I think we can certainly look at that as we dive into the new code.
Thank you. And anything we could do, you know, prior to actual adoption of the new code to ease the process in the meantime, I think I would be interested in seeing.
And we have the applicant with us, Missy Corey. Looks like you are able to talk now. If you have anything to say, we'd love to hear from you.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
We can.
Thank you so much for having me this evening. We really appreciate it. So my name is Missy Corey. I live at 1431 East Pine Ridge Drive, Boise 83716. Yes, just echoing support for this project. We appreciate you guys entertaining this. We really feel like our location is primed to do something special to the neighborhood and really augment, you know, biking and walkability and, you know, a small neighborhood space that people are proud of to have in their neighborhood. My family goes back 100 years and 5 generations in this neighborhood specifically, and I am in the building across the street from this with my other group. And so I think my husband and I think we're just excited to be able to do something special in this area. And so far people have just been really supportive of it. So, you know, the hours that we set, I appreciated the question on what would need to happen if we wanted to extend those. I think at this point we sort of extended those pretty far out, you know, pretty wide. We want to make sure as we, no matter how we hopefully grow and expand, that we are augmenting the neighborhood, not detracting. So I think those hours are even fairly long for what we're thinking, if that makes sense. So thank you for the support. We really are appreciative.
Great, thank you. So we have, I see two people still in the list, Josh Wilson and Pat Teely. Are either of you, if either of you want to say something, just raise your little hand.
Madam Mayor, Josh Wilson's my emergency backup this evening. Should
Okay, I thought I recognized Josh Wilson's name, but I can't see any faces, so I didn't know. Okay. All right. So with that, then, if I will close the public hearing and the matter is properly before us.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Yes.
If I can get to the top here, I would move approval of CUP 20-5 Locust LLC, a conditional use permit for a special exception to operate a restaurant on 0.21 acres in a R3D zone at 422 West Emerald.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right. Clerk, will you call the roll?
Sanchez,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Woodings,
Yes.
Agent,
Yes.
Clegg,
Yes.
Halliburton.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
All righty, that's the last thing on the agenda. If there's nothing else to come before us, I'll take a motion.
Madam Mayor, before I make the motion, I just want to say how great it is to be back in actually decision-making mode, being able to hear from the public. Really appreciated those folks who came tonight. Thank you, Richard, if you're still watching. And hopefully we're a little small step toward recovery. With that, I would move to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Just before we take a vote off topic, but in case it turns off, I see that Barb Malmstrom is still here. So I just want to make sure that maybe like contact information is shared privately in text. Nobody else will see it, Barb, but that way you can connect with staff. And we'll be turning the Zoom off, and then you lose that opportunity. And if you miss it, then just call and somebody will be able to find you. So with that, clerk, will you call the roll?
Sanchez,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Woodings,
Yes.
Agent,
Yes.
Clegg,
Yes.
Halliburton.
Yes.
All in favor.
Great. With that, we're adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Good job.
Great.